Hey, where I am is at the memorial for the Warsaw Uprising, 1944. Basically, what had happened is Red Army's approaching Warsaw. So, with Allied parachute to help the insurgents, the Polish resistance decided to try and take the city and make it easier for the Red Army. The Red Army had reached the suburbs when they started on August 1st, 1944. And they just went all out after. They captured Old Town in the city center, and they captured other little areas of the city from the Germans. Now, this is where things kind of get hairy, is that the Germans counterattacked it and started going after them. The guide said that basically when they started, only one out of every 10 men actually had a rifle. So this is a monument to the final charge they had to try and stop the Germans from taking back. The Germans, in retribution, actually razed Old Town to the ground. Practically every building was absolutely completely destroyed. 40,000 Pole insurgents and 180,000 civilians, because the Germans just took it out on everybody. Citizens of the Old Town, in order to try and flee, actually went to the sewers, and the Germans dropped gas down into the sewers and killed them all. Nobody in Old Town survived. The thing that gets controversial about it is that they thought that they would be supported by the Red Army. Stalin decided not to, and actually held his troops on the other side of the river, waiting for the Germans to squash the rebellion. Now, the Germans were basically in retreat, so what they did is they started at the river, which is like Old Town, and they just started destroying everything as they moved out of the city. They razed everything to the ground. Again, 40,000 Polish insurgents and 180,000. The Germans lost 25,000 because they had just superior firepower. Any Allied troops were also killed. Stalin decided not to help the insurgents because he wanted to be in control after this was over. And he knew the Poles wouldn't accept communism, so he decided to just let the Germans crush the rebellion. That saved him from having to do it later. So this is a memorial to the Polish uprising in 1944 that lasted 63 days. And the Red Army just sat and watched it happen. They actually even refused the Allies to drop troops on their side safely to actually reinforce it. So, it was at this point that even Stalin was starting to plan for the war afterwards. Ending my time in Warsaw. Obviously, that's just a museum now. It's the old palace. The main square, the Old Town. A lot of history here. But as I walk back, find a place to eat, have my final dinner in Warsaw, and just move on. Nice place. People should visit. From my first walk down this road, I've gotten that building right there is where the president or prime minister lives. I think that they have a prime minister, not a president, but he lives there. There used to be another place where the kings used to live. That was blown up, and then there was a place where the Nazi commander who was in charge of Poland lived, and after that the communists from the Russians lived there. So when they finally got rid of communism, the first Polish president decided, I'm not living anywhere there because it's kind of got a bad history. So now that's where the guests, except the really special guests like the President of the United States. The President of the United States shows up. He stays at the Marriott, top floor of the Marriott, and they get rid of all the guests, and it's just security in the rest of the building. So that's got to suck if you're trying to book the Marriott. There's a few other things coming up here that also I was wondering about, but it's worth noting. So, Poland's a really nice place. Some observations. There are no pretzels. I'm still disappointed. I asked. Nobody can answer the question why there aren't any pretzels here. You're so close to Germany. And Germans, like in Germany, there's always pretzels everywhere. But there's no pretzels here. I just feel like a bakery. You know, you might want a pretzel in the morning. But the mass transit, it's a little different than some of the other rest of Europe, but once you kind of get the figuring out of it, it's easy enough. They actually kind of frown on using cash here, probably because the currency is worth like a fifth of what an American dollar or a euro is. So you're usually plumping down like, you know, if you're paying 20 bucks, you're paying 100, whatever it is. The Polish word for their currency also means gold. So it's kind of ironic because they say there's no gold in Poland. That's why they make stuff out of amber. That guy there in this church is dedicated to the guy who was head of the church at the same time they had that big defeat against the Bolsheviks shortly after World War I, because Lenin decided, like, okay, we're going to take over Poland. So he was head of the church. The other guy who beat him, the actually military commander, is held in really high regard. This is a museum. There's a lot of Polish history and whatnot. I do not have time to kind of go through it. The Polish revere George Washington because there was a lot of Polish influence in the Revolutionary War. There was Polish people helping the Continental Army. They also like Herbert Hoover because Herbert Hoover helped them before he became president in a few things. So they actually like him. He's not regarded as a great president in the United States. And they have a big thing with, they have a big statue here to around Reagan because they like him because he was a avid anti-communist. So if you're, the one big thing you can tell about Poland is that they are not over World War II. I mean, they're not, they really hate the Nazis, but they hate the communists even more because it was, what they say, it was brutal. It wasn't like East German kind of brutal. This is the University of Warsaw. That's their campus. It wasn't as brutal as East Germany, but they had a lot of riots and a lot of crackdowns by the police. Also that communist architecture is very drab. There couldn't be any religious symbols or any decorations. So they had a short period after World War II, before the communist control, where they were able to start to rebuild. Like, all this was absolutely destroyed. Whole entire street. They rebuilt it brick by brick through photographs and memory to the way it looked before. So this is the old town. You can call it the new old town. Now this church right here is important. The thing about this church here is, this is the church where their great composer, who made a lot of classical music, his heart is. He was, his father was French, and he moved to Paris, and he dies in Paris. But he has his heart cut out, placed in French cognac, and taken here. During the Second World War, the Nazis decided to destroy the church. But one officer decides to take the heart out and gives it to a priest. So the heart survived. I guess they put it back into some other French cognac, and it's in that church today. The other thing is this right here. I didn't notice it because it had a K. If they put a C there, I would have known who it was. This is a memorial to Copernicus, who was also, well, I don't, you know, here's the thing. I don't really consider Copernicus Polish because there was no Poland then. It was kind of like a loose confederation of like area, so. But this is to Copernicus. The Polish are very proud of a lot of their people who have contributed greatly to the world. So, Copernicus, K-O-P. If it had said C-O-P, I would have caught it. But there's a lot of spelling issues. Another interesting fact, when you see a Polish name and it has S-K-I at the end, that's the male. Female would be S-K-A. They got rid of that. They also had a suffix for women, like who would be like it basically means bride of, you know, so and so. So the last names of Polish actually mean stuff in their language. So they've eliminated a lot of that to some degree. But they have a very gendered language and a very hard to learn language. I tried to learn a couple words, but it was not going well. But this is Warsaw. It's cheap. People here are friendly. It's easy to get around. I mean, they got their quirks. But hey, I mean, I would understand. I mean, if you like easy going, easy to get around, this is kind of the place that you'd like to be. This example of something. Modern building, Soviet. It's amazing how ugly that crap is. I mean, there was like no design, anything involved here. The communists just like, I don't know. You almost want to think like these people probably were thinking about ritual suicide, how ugly their architecture was. You know, let the artist flourish. Ugly. Not as nice. Back there is a national monument right there. See the big wall? That is the wall of the Jewish ghetto that the Nazis constructed. So that side outside ghetto, this side inside ghetto. A lot of people were inside the ghetto. They tore down the vast majority of it. But there's small bits right there. They're obviously, I think they're rebuilding part of it to make it more of like a national monument. Because after the Nazis left, they started like demolishing a lot of the stuff. Because well, one, they needed building material, and two, they wanted to get rid of stuff that reminded them of like what things were like. So that's how it went.